The Gourmet number 22, The Battle Wolf.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Hungry Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome, hunger-inducing, appetite-wielding tale of Torico. Our last chapter, of course, saw us with the Battle Wolf actually being introduced, and you know, very, very briefly at the end of the chapter, we just saw this massive, cool-looking legend, this animal, this beast of legend, you know, and weren't really told a whole lot about it. So that is where the chapter left off. This Battle Wolf is going to be going up against 5 other creatures: the Devil Python, the Growlrus, the Elephantosaurus, just to name a few. And then there's also a huge troll Kong, a silverback one, and then some kind of weird bird too, I think. I forget what that was called. But anyway, so that's where the chapter left off. That is where this one picks up. And this one is actually pretty cool because it starts off, and actually the first few pages, it winds up giving us this backstory kind of leading up to the legend that is the Battle Wolf. We wind up finding out and hearing about in history that there was this beast that was spawned from, I don't know if it was from cloning or what it was from, but these things were 50 meters long, and these huge herbivores known as Death Gores. These Death Gores were actually referred to as demon spawns because these things would just destroy anything in their path. So what happened is these things started multiplying and just destroying and deforestation of continents. I mean, just completely wiping out and turning areas into just desolate wastelands and deserts. People don't realize that if you don't have forests, number one, I mean, obviously there's the obvious, no trees to produce oxygen, but then all the different plant life and the food, the flora and fauna that, certainly the retention of water, everything else that winds up happening, to keep the animals that are alive in these type of things, the different types of plants. So the idea is that these things were just destroying the world. And they were even saying they're like global warming, they're like meteor showers, this, that, all these different natural disasters. Like, they got nothing on these Death Gores, right? So these things were going across, just wiping out continent after continent. And this is back in ancient times, I suppose. At least that's what it sounds like, anyway. And these things wind up going and going to this final continent, the Green Continent, right? And then it's kind of cool because they go and they show this picture of them all just like laying there dead and bloody and shit like that. Because they're like, up until now, nothing could stop them. They're like human deforestation was like toothpicks, it's like nothing. They weren't doing anything. That wasn't doing anything compared to what these things were doing as far as just destroying the planet. So more or less the planet was facing extinction is what it was because of these Death Gores. And then it says, until they happened upon, their compass took them in the wrong direction, and they happened upon the territory, the battleground, so to speak, of the legendary Battle Wolf. And I guess at the time it said it was a young Battle Wolf. So it looks like it was one Battle Wolf that took out all these Death Gores over here. So definitely not something to be trifled with. And really kind of just a cool aspect of what I enjoy about this series, which is that background characterization, development, and the world building ultimately. Because you could have just told me the Battle Wolf was just this big badass and this creature of legend, and I would have bought it. It would have been fine. But now I'm invested much more in the history and the background of it. So we then go and boom, we're right back in the Coliseum now, and they show the Battle Wolf, right? And this thing just looks cool. The director Mansom says, it's 18 meters long, which is approximately 50 feet, and 11 tons, which is a lot. It's like 22,000 pounds. So this thing is huge, right? And it's pretty cool because they show the odds and everything like that. And the Devil Python hasn't even been released from his gate yet or whatever, but the odds on the Battle Wolf are already better than the Devil Pythons because that's how much this creature of legend. There's no capture level for it. They wound up, Director Mansom says, they were able to clone one. From I guess from the DNA maybe that was found at where on the Green Continent where all these Death Gores were wiped out somehow or another. I don't know exactly what their cloning process is, So and really the only experience that I have is probably from watching a movie like Jurassic Park, where they talk about DNA and finding it and cloning it and merging it with frog DNA. But anyway, that's just getting off the beaten path over there now. So. So we wind up getting, kind of a cool looking scene where the battle wolf just, boom, is just looking like it's raring to go, And then you get all these other 4 creatures, the Growlrus and the Elephantosaurus and the weird bird, the Gerolud or whatever the hell, I can't pronounce it. And, and then the silverback troll Kong. And they're all raring to go, but then they kind of go, and as they sense and they feel that aura, and Torico even talks about the aura is just so, the aura, you can't believe the aura that's coming off this thing. They all kind of start cowering, and they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's that intimidation factor, So Mansum goes and he's just like, what the hell? And he goes and he gets on his walkie-talkie and he goes and talks to somebody. He's like, pump more of this, the battle fragrance in there, And so then we go and we see this picture. We're introduced to Rin, which is this Igo animal trainer. And she's basically just like, screw you, you bald-headed something, this and that. And he's like, what, did you call me handsome? And she's like, that joke is getting really old because his name obviously is Mansum and it rhymes with handsome. And when people say director Mansum, I guess a lot of, I don't know, whatever. That's just like, that's his little goofy joke, But so she's like, I've had enough of your crap, and blah, blah. The more we get him riled up, the longer it takes to settle him down. And he's like, oh, come on, thanks, sweetheart, just do it, So then she goes and we get this little this brief description about that there's this place, Battle Island, right? It reminds me of like Godzilla, like the Island of Monsters or whatever it was called, where they all just kind of hang out on Monster Island. No, it wasn't called the Island of Monsters. It was called Monster Island. So good job, Jim. Anyway, and all that's where all like the monsters were, Godzilla and Rodan and whatever. So that's what I think of. There's this battle island where creatures battle and duke it out all the time, for supremacy amongst creatures. And there is this plant that grows there, right? And this battle flower, and the pheromones that come off of there just pretty much get people riled up, It's kind of like pheromone, I don't know, like aerosol crack or something like that. It gets people really just hopped up and wanting to fight, So, or creatures at least. So they wind up showing, they explain all that, and again, this is part of that background world building thing, so they can then go and explain that it's distilled down into like this perfume, and this Rin has a bottle of it, and she's like, normally, we put it in and dilute it at 100 times dilution, but you know what, we're going to put some in and dilute it at only 50 times dilution, which would be obviously half, so it's going to be twice as potent as it normally is, and we'll pump that in there, and then she goes and she sprays it into this ventilation system that then goes and travels and carries it out to the Coliseum. So then all of a sudden the smoke starts coming out in the Coliseum from that, battle fragrance perfume. And all of a sudden, man, all the animals are like, and everybody's ready to freaking go, So everybody got all riled up again, So Torico's like, oh man, look at, they're all getting ready to go. So they wind up all kind of just jumping at the battle wolf and attacking it at once. And mind you, that devil python still hasn't showed up at this point. They still haven't released it from its gates. Or maybe they opened the gate and the thing's just chilling back there waiting to see who comes out on top. I don't know what the battle plan is for him or her. But we don't want to be sexist here with these animals. So these 4 animals go and pretty much jump the battle wolf, right? And we go and we see, instead of this, you think the next page you're going to turn, it's a page turner. You turn and you're thinking, oh, this battle wolf's just going to be tearing heads off and all kinds of crazy, just decimating animals and just doing ungodly things to them that they probably can't even show in the manga, right? No, the battle wolf in the next one looks like it's kind of getting bit and tore at, but it looks like it's moving to try to evade and escape, It's not really direct, it's not going into direct confrontation with any of these other beasts, So Torico picks up on that right away. And he goes and he says, Director Mansum, because you see this thing kind of dodging and this thing, and he says, Director Mansum, is this thing, is this battle wolf a female by any chance? And Mansum's like, yeah, why? And Torico goes and he just doesn't say anything. Then you go and you see Komatsu, and he's going and he's talking about this and that and blah, 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 and he's going on and on about the battle wolf and the other beasts and what's going on. And then he looks over and Toriko's not even in his seat anymore, right? And he's like, what the hell? Where'd he go? All of a sudden you go and you hear double, and then in the next page or whatever you see spiked punch, and he goes and just jacks up. I don't know if I forget if it was the Growlrus or the Elephantosaurus. He nails one of them though, right? With a double spiked punch, and just fucking waylays him. And now everybody starts going crazy, man, and they're just like, whoa, Toriko's in the Coliseum. Torico is going to fight, So everybody's going nuts. And even like Rin, the animal trainer's like, what? Toriko's here? He's in the Coliseum? So the chapter winds up ending up shortly after that. The only thing I can assume from Torico sensing that it was a female is that maybe he sensed that it was pregnant. And from what I know about animals, even ones that are just kind of feral and ferocious and very protective, when they're pregnant, I know that, and I don't even know if this is it, but if they're pregnant, I know a lot of times they're more of like in an evade mode as opposed to like direct confrontation, because they don't want to, I don't know if it's like in their nesting phase or what, but they don't want their baby to be harmed. So I don't know if maybe that's the deal or what. I guess we'll find out in the next chapter. But really, it just kind of ends off with like Toriko, kind of looking at the battle wolf like, oh yeah, hey, how you doing? So this scene, this being face to face with this awesome wolf of legend, even though it's a clone, who cares? It's still cool. And Mansom even made a mention earlier in the thing too about how he feels like even though it's a clone, this one has the instincts of the battle wolf and blah blah blah, and all the predatory instincts to just tear apart and destroy anything. So the chapter ends up, though, of course, with Toriko now being in the midst of the Coliseum with all of these beasts and creatures, minus the one that he just knocked the fuck out. And that's where we're left hanging to wait for the next wonderful chapter, which I'm going to read in about 30 seconds over here. So my chapter question, though, is why did Toriko, does anybody know, without knowing ahead, what is anybody's best guess, I guess, that's reading along with me, of why Toriko went and just kind of like flipped when he heard that it was a female? Do you agree with my prediction that maybe the female is pregnant, or that there's something else amiss that I don't know about? So leave your answer to the question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you think that I deserve it, and maybe subscribe if you have not done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next one, nation.
Battle Wolf, capture level unknown, says to subscribe.